Hey, this is Ready, Set, Renovate, a podcast about remodeling your home using a contractor you trust. Daniel Builders builds trust in 5 specific ways, and one of those ways is something we call connection. What do we mean? We seek to connect with others on a relational level, and not just with clients or employees either. Sometimes it may be a person who can just benefit from our help. Really, anyone in our industry is a great opportunity for us to connect with. Andy Naples is one such example. Andy is an electrical engineer who isn't a client or trade contractor, but he does understand something we work with every single day, and that's electricity. On this episode of Ready, Set, Renovate, Andy speaks about maintaining your home's electrical system and ways to ensure your home stays safe. Yes, Andy also appreciates the power of connection, both electrical connections and personal. So let's get to it. Daniel Builders is a renovation contractor, a remodeling contractor, a GC that specializes in guide, design, build remodels. And what that means is we design remodels of all shapes and sizes, whether they're whole home remodels on a big scale or down to a much smaller scope of work, like a bathroom remodel. One thing all remodels have in common that we do is they're all powered by electricity. They all have electrical work that needs to be done within the remodel. And today's guest is an electricity expert, studied electricity at Georgia Tech, and now works with electricity as an electrical engineer. Super wealth of knowledge he brings to this conversation. And we just wanted to pick his brain. This is Andy Naples. Thank you for being with us, Andy.
And you're welcome.
Grateful to have a conversation with you. And what we want to look at is questions that you should ask regarding the electricity in your home. If you have an electrician, a qualified electrician come to your home, what are some things that you need to be aware of, questions you need to ask, and things you need to understand? So right out of the gate, Andy, tell us a little bit of the general high-level questions homeowners should be thinking through when it comes to the electricity in their home.
Well, one of the most important parts of the electrical system of any home is the ground, something we all take for granted. And if you don't really have a good ground, which is usually found outside your utility meter, if that ground rod isn't properly installed, then usually all the grounds within the house aren't very properly installed either. And that could cause danger. Electrocution danger. So I think the electrician would start out by checking your ground rod to see if it does go down 8 feet.
8 feet.
Yep, that's the code. If you go to any do-it-yourself store like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, you'll find that they do stock 8-foot copper-clad ground rods. You'd also want to check the connection to that ground rod to the copper ground wire that goes up to the meter and eventually finds its way into your electric panel. The connection point there, the electrical connector that holds that wire to the ground rod, should be tightened down where it can't be loose of anything. So I think those 2 things are the very first things that should be addressed on any home, for whether it's an existing home or one that's going to be remodeled.
And you're saying the problems that could arise if that isn't right include electrocution, maybe even fire, your house catching on fire?
Yeah. Within the home, you have a number of protective devices in the bathroom, as well as in the kitchen area, called GFCI receptacles, ground fault receptacles. And those receptacles are constantly monitoring the ground and the hot and the neutral. And they want to make sure that everything that goes out on the hot to your oven or whatever you plug into there comes back on the neutral. And if some of it leaves and goes through the ground, you want to make sure that you have the best ground possible that takes that errant electricity outside into that ground rod. You don't want it to stay inside the house, which might mean it could go through your body.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Now, you work a lot with electricity, obviously, in your position. And one thing that you hear about electricity is this idea of harmonics. Can you give us an idea of what are we talking about when we say harmonics within electrical currents?
Sure. So 30 years ago, the homes had nothing in them that would have anything measurable by what's called harmonics today. Today's electronic devices, whether it be a laptop, a flat screen TV, oh, maybe a printer, or all these LED lamps that that we all put in our house now to save energy, all have little power supplies in them. And the power supplies are referred to as switching power supplies in the industry. And that switching causes another form of electricity that just wasn't around 30 years ago. And that form of electricity today is measurable by a term called harmonics. And it's split up into different fractions, and it's referred to as third harmonic, fifth, seventh. And it's all the odd numbers up to, well, right now, 50th is about all they're measuring right now. I'm sure they're pretty sure there's harmonics above the 50th, but right now the measuring devices only accurately detail it to the 50th. And these harmonics do cause heat in your electrical system. And they always find their way to the neutral, not to the ground, but to the neutral, which is kind of interesting. So they're in our load center panel boards every day on the neutral, and they do waste energy. And that energy that's wasted is caught by the electric meter. The utility meter could see it because it's a very accurate meter.
So you're paying for it.
You're paying for that. And there are devices in the marketplace today that could filter out those harmonics by installing a device inside the panel board connected to the neutral that would eliminate them from the utility meter seeing it. And obviously cools down your load center as well.
That's really interesting. And so these devices, actually, you've worked with those devices.
Sure.
You've helped design and create those devices.
Sure.
They can potentially, in an age where everybody's concerned about energy and energy efficiency, they actually play a very practical role in managing the energy that you use within your home. Is that right?
Right. The device is nothing more than an inductor, which has been around for 100 years. And all the inductor does is offset the capacitive nature of all those switching power supplies, whether it be an LED lamp or your laptop or your desktop computer or your flat screen TV. It offsets all those capacitive profile power supplies that cause the harmonics. And a very, very old device, very well proven device. It's just never been applied that way. Never had to.
Sure.
Until recently, in the last 10 years.
That's really fascinating stuff. And I know it becomes especially interesting to people who are looking to save on their energy costs, their energy expenses. How much can somebody expect to save if they start utilizing technologies such as you're talking about?
Sure. So we all put in those LED lamps in our fixtures to save what turned out to be about 40-50% worth of watts as compared to the incandescent lamps that were prevalent in our houses up until about 10 years ago. We saved 40 or 50% by just going to LED fixtures. This inductive device that we're talking about that filters out the harmonics that are part of the LED fixture or the laptop or your TV, we'll probably save about 10% more. So it's an incremental savings of another 10. Obviously, that depends on how long you leave on all your lamps or your TVs or your laptops during the day. Right. As to what it really is. So it's a function of usage of what you normally use now, but roughly 10%.
Where are things going? I know that's always a question I bring up with guests for them to look into their crystal ball and say, hey, the future in this industry looks kind of like this, or this is something to pay attention to.
Sure. So everybody's heard about solar. I mean,
Sure, yeah.
it's
Very
everywhere.
common.
Solar for the residents, it's practical if your roof faces the south, so you have exposure to the sun all day long. Obviously, if you have rainy days or cloudy days, or if you need electricity at night and you're only on solar, you need a battery system that runs in parallel with it, that the solar charges during the day. So that's another cost to the solar concept, if you will.
So power could go down if you don't have the right
Yeah.
things in place.
Right. And so you got to have a system with solar. You just can't have the solar. You need the battery as well. I don't think a lot of people realize that. 50 years from now, I think the solar will be more price competitive. I think it'll be like $2,000 rather than $20,000 today.
To get those panels on your
Get the get the batteries too. I think batteries and solar will come down to that point 50 years from
That's
now.
an interesting point, yeah,
So-
because right now it's cost prohibitive for a lot of people.
It's kind of like it's really an investment to do it now, and you're not going to get a return for many, many years.
Some great content here. Andy, I appreciate you being willing to share some of that knowledge with us. And if you ever get a chance and want to learn more about these devices we were talking about that actually filter out electricity that's not serving any purpose, wasted electricity, and actually save, Andy, as I mentioned, has developed that product, and we'd be happy to get you more information on that. Until next time, this is Will with Ready, Set, Renovate. We'll see you.
We're delighted you tuned in for today's episode of Ready, Set, Renovate, your guide design build resource. Are you ready for your home to undergo a transformation? We'd love to talk to you about it. Visit us at danielbuilders.com and tell us about the home renovation you envision. In the meantime, subscribe to Ready, Set, Renovate, and we'll keep the renovation inspiration coming.